Yeah, so Carrington is a dirty player, probably the dirtiest player in the league. And then she has the audacity to go online right after her ejection and claim that she got ejected because of racism. She definitely learned well from Angel Reese. Whenever something goes against you, just pull out that race card.
DiJonai Carrington was just ejected after a brutal flagrant 2-foul on Sophie Cunningham. But somehow, that was only the beginning of the controversy. Because after Carrington was thrown out of the Fever versus Sky game, she appeared to take her frustration straight to social media with a message aimed directly at Indiana. 2 words: white privilege. And she tagged the Indiana Fever.
I think she's jealous of my natural blonde hair. She'll never have this hair. I literally got clotheslined in the air, and this clown has to turn it into race. Her level of IQ needs to be studied for generations. But anyways, it was an easy dub for us.
Now the WNBA has another massive controversy on its hands, because this is no longer just about whether Carrington deserved to be ejected. It is about why she believes the Fever are being treated differently, whether Sophie Cunningham was actually the victim of a dangerous play, and why another physical WNBA moment has suddenly exploded into something much bigger than basketball.
Dirtbag DiJonai Carrington, up to her old bag of dirty tricks. You knew it. You knew it. With all of the chatter, all of the talk going around the Indiana Fever, especially following Sophie Cunningham's comments, you knew DiJonai Carrington was going to find a way to go viral during today's game. You knew DiJonai Carrington was drooling, foaming out the mouth at the opportunity to get some clout from the Fever girls. You know she was going to look at Sophie Cunningham. The first time she saw Sophie Cunningham, you knew she was going to right upside her head. And the first time she saw Sophie Cunningham, she right upside her head.
And once you actually see what happened, you understand why everyone is arguing. It happened during another physical Fever game. Sophie Cunningham attacked the basket and went up toward the rim. Carrington was defending the play. But instead of a normal contest at the basketball, Carrington's arm came across Cunningham's upper body and face area as Sophie was airborne. Cunningham immediately went crashing down, and that is where things became serious.
DiJonai Carrington. Here's Cunningham up ahead of the field, lays it in, and then Cunningham gets into the face of DiJonai Carrington.
Gets her right across the face, coming down, trying to prevent the layup, but that is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2.
Because contact with a player while she is in the air can be extremely dangerous. There is no opportunity to brace yourself normally. There is no control over how you land. One moment you're attacking the basket, the next you're falling toward the hardwood. The officials reviewed the play, and they eventually ruled it a flagrant 2. That meant Carrington was ejected. Game over. And naturally, the decision immediately divided fans. Some believed it was absolutely the correct call. They looked at the contact, Cunningham's vulnerable position in the air, and the potential for injury, and said there was simply no place for it.
It's about this. Here we go. DiJonai Carrington clotheslining Sophie Cunningham.
Face coming down, trying to prevent the layup, but that is just
right there.
A hard hit. That's
Sophie was not having it. You know Sophie, she ain't backing down. Sophie was ready to go. And you got DiJonai Carrington running to the threads. She didn't put this on Twitter, by the way. But she did make a post on Twitter. So she tweeted out white privilege in caps at Indiana Fever. Unbelievable.
Others believed the officials went too far. They argued Carrington was making a basketball play and that the collision looked worse because of Cunningham's fall. But Carrington apparently had an even bigger problem with what happened, because after the ejection, an Instagram story attributed to Carrington began circulating online. It read, "White privilege at Indiana Fever." That's it. No long explanation, no breakdown of the foul, just 2 incredibly loaded words and a direct tag of the Fever. And immediately the conversation exploded because Carrington appeared to be suggesting that Indiana was benefiting from different treatment. And if that's what she meant, that raises an enormous question. What exactly does she believe was unfair? Was she talking about her ejection? Was she talking about how Cunningham was treated by the officials? Was she talking about the fever generally? Without further context from Carrington, people are filling in those blanks themselves.
DiJonai Carrington goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege. Then DiJonai Carrington tweets 823. Seems like a threat to me. Seems like a threat to me. Yo, thing I'm messing. Sophie Cunningham said what she said. Quote, I said what I said. And these ladies in the WNBA, if I can call them that, I don't know what they all identify as, but these ladies in the WNBA, it's open season on her head. And I am 99.9% sure the only person that walked into that building with an inkling that something was gonna happen, that DiJonai was gonna try to clout chase, that Natasha Harron was gonna try to clout chase, the only person with enough brains and enough maybe street sense, street smart, was Sophie Cunningham.
And that is making everything even more heated, because the Fever have already spent years at the center of arguments about officiating and physicality. Caitlin Clark has repeatedly been involved in controversial moments. Sophie Cunningham has developed a reputation as one of the teammates most willing to stand up during physical games. And Carrington herself has history with Indiana. Fans have not forgotten the 2024 playoff series when Carrington accidentally poked Clark in the eye while defending her. That moment produced an enormous online reaction, and Carrington later said she received threats and racist abuse. So there is already history here. Now add Sophie Cunningham, add another physical collision, add an ejection, and then add an accusation involving race. Suddenly, this is no longer one controversial whistle. It is another chapter in one of the WNBA's most combustible rivalries. But here's where the situation becomes complicated. You can debate whether the officials should have called a flagrant 2. That's basketball. Fans argue about officiating every night. But the officials were also dealing with a specific play. Cunningham was airborne. There was significant contact. She crashed to the floor. The officials reviewed it and made their decision. If Carrington believes that decision represents a broader double standard, people are going to want to know exactly what evidence she is pointing toward. Because once you use the phrase white privilege, the conversation immediately becomes bigger than basketball. And that is why the reaction has been so intense. Some fans believe Carrington is calling attention to something they have argued for years, that race can influence how WNBA players are discussed, marketed, and perceived. Others believe Carrington is avoiding responsibility for a dangerous foul by turning an officiating decision into a racial controversy. Those are completely different interpretations, and social media is now fighting over both. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham is once again standing directly in the middle of the chaos. And that is becoming almost normal. Sophie has already become one of the most polarizing players in the WNBA. She plays physically, she talks openly, she defends her teammates. And recently, controversy seems to follow her everywhere. But this time, Sophie didn't need to say anything. The image of her being hit while attacking the basket did the talking. And Carrington's apparent response poured gasoline on everything. Because imagine the reaction if Sophie had avoided injury by inches. That is exactly why officials are supposed to take airborne contact seriously. A player does not need to suffer a serious injury before officials can decide a play was dangerous. The punishment is supposed to prevent that outcome. But Carrington clearly appears to believe there is another side to the story. And now the pressure may shift toward the league. Does the WNBA address the post? Does Carrington explain exactly what she meant? Does Sophie Cunningham respond? Does Indiana stay completely silent? Because every option creates another headline. And there is something else worth watching. How will officials handle Carrington and Cunningham the next time they share a court? Players remember these moments. Fans definitely remember them. And every future collision between these teams will now be viewed through the lens of what happened here. That is what makes this bigger than one flagrant 2. The foul lasted seconds. The review lasted minutes, but the argument could follow these players for the rest of the season. And once race, officiating, and player safety become tangled together, there are no easy answers. Carrington supporters will say she is speaking about a bigger issue. Her critics will say the video shows exactly why she was ejected. But there is one thing both sides probably agree on. This rivalry just became a whole lot more personal. Because Sophie Cunningham hit the floor, DiJonai Carrington got thrown out. And instead of ending there, 2 words turned one basketball foul into another WNBA firestorm. Now everybody is waiting to see what happens next.